Having filled a bag of treasure to chafe her shoulder with, Reyth settled to rest as commotion took the village center. First came girls to try their hand at Reyth's success, then boys to adjudicate their performances, then mothers to scold their daughters and fathers to carry off the spoils. O whistled alongside the songbox's tune while communicating with another outsider at some distance, clicking and clacking a code by way of a device or instrument Reyth could not conceive, for O had not been willing to let her click or clack on the basis that the conversation he'd been having with an unseen fellow had been too important. Click, 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 clack, click, 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 clack, click, click, clack, click, clack, click, click, clack, 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 click, clack, click, clack, clack, click, click, clack, click, clack, clack, clack. It was Reyth's turn to sing along, an entrancing and graceful form of communication that would have served her well within the breath. Then a return call sang, click, clack, 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 click, 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 clack, click, clack, click, clack, 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 click, 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 clack. Shit, shite signaling gunshots and skunks. Oh, spat with understanding. Time to go. Rey had taken a sliver of the strange fellow's display for herself while she awaited her uncle's return. He may be fickle, but she only partially believed he'd have drawn her here just to trade moss and gab with strangers. O's sudden haste perked her ears, and she hushed the musical box with a clack of the lid. "What shots? Go?" she asked. "Go where? You see me uncle comin' at all?" "He's probably flirtin' and fawnin' with Greg, damn fool. I ain't his keeper," O said, yanking the blanket she'd sat upon. "And I ain't yours neither, Foxy. Best get gone if you know what's good for you." Rolled into the mud by his rug pulling, Reyth scurried up. "Is Greg the holy man my uncle spoke of? Take me to him." There was shouting elsewhere in Quatan, loud enough to draw silence over the frisky young men and women, just as O drew a tarp over his goods. "Me uncle said he could—" "Ooh la la! Who's this sexy young skeeve?" Another outsider interceded, having approached without Reyth's notice. Not even Arik snuck up on her like that. "Schneider, if you can't work fast, work elsewhere. I cannot believe you let your greed take us 2 days deep into magistrate fuckery," O said, pushing 2 ends of a rope for Reyth to take. "Want a ride? Stop bustin' stones, Foxy. Ya can tie a knot, can't ya?" "With me eyes closed." Reyth joked, did just as promised, and secured the canvas tight. "Nicely done," Schneider cheered. His chords may twang differently, but compared to O, his words were smooth and familiar as yak's milk. "Please forgive this simpleton. As a mosaic, he knows nothing but vulgarity, I'm afraid. A pleasure, young woman. You can call me Schneider." Reyth knew he must have been looking at her, but he fell suddenly silent as if waiting for something. "By the goddess's blood, Schneider, even I knows that this skeeve doesn't want to slick hands with you." Then O must have struck Schneider in the belly because he wheezed. "Stop gabbin'! Schneider, you think the scucks are gonna give you a jury of your peers for dealin' alchems without a license? Nah, they'll splatter your blood-brain barrier all over that ruin yonder instead." O shouted, having climbed aboard. "Get on Foxy if you comin'. Schneider, you said they were just about the river's bend, eh?" "Yes, sir, just west." Scucks, west, alchems. The proverbial yak's milk had soured, as she struggled to find purchase upon the words in the wagon bed, tossing her hefty sack of goods into the pile of treasures shifting around beneath the tarp. She'd figured skeeve meant she and the others. So was a scuck a monster? Perhaps Neshers? West was twinned, then wild woods until the cliffside dwellings of the Hupa. If trouble were afoot, she'd be safest at home, and although she'd struggled her way upon the wagon, she soon began to climb off. "Whoa!" Schneider shouted. "Where you scurrying off to? Stay still. Stop wasting time with the local just 'cause she got her tits out." O said. Reyth, half poised towards the ground, hesitated at the thought of answering to a stranger's orders, but this was all very strange to begin with. "Home. If it's dangerous, Trust me, with this kind of danger it's best not to trifle." Schneider interrupted, patting her rump to goad her back into O's wagon. "Where we're going, there'll be nowhere safer to lay your head low for a while." "Aye," O said, helping her back up. "Likely where your uncle will be. Ain't nowhere safer than family, I'd reckon. Don't worry, we'll pass the trouble right by. Schneider here may have gotten greedy and walked us into the worm fire, but I reckon we— Crack! Like a thump to her thoughts, a boom like frost-splitting trees threw her off balance, for when the wagon jerked forward, reins snapped and the horse's whinnies squealed. Crack! Again, a sound like the splitting sky, like boulders crashing against a mountainside in climactic avalanche. "Oh, get gone!" Schneider shouted. The wagon bucked and Reyth scrambled for a hold, finding the rope she'd secured just moments before. Cupping thumping ears, more snaps and cracks crashed against the concussed shoreline of her consciousness. She leapt from the cart, only to be caught at the belt. The danger had popped Schneider out of the fire and into the wagon as well. It wasn't Schneider that made her reconsider leaping, but the smell of smoke so thick it had started to burn her open eyes. Flames? Everywhere around her? All at once? The wagon's pace hurried, the horse's clops quickening. Smoke, fire, ash, and chaos across Quatan erupted, and she shouted just to see if she could hear herself. Reyth's words drowned in her own mind. She hadn't a sense of what ground ran beneath them, where they were going, or who all was where. Crack! Was that from behind her? A man's voice? The foreign tongue impermeably thick with snot and nose that she was sure the next crack was but a lash of this demon tongue. Wood split beside her, she'd frozen frosty despite the roaring flames. Crack! Dogs? Barking, chomping, growling, men, women in fear or pain. Crack! Flames like the hot sun at her back. Crack! Schneider shouted to their driver. Can't those old mares pick a pace? That bastard's hot on our asses, oh. That skuck half scampling or something. How's a bastard run that fast? Oh shouted. That magister ain't running, oh. Schneider said, jamming Reyth down as she felt herself grow light, but they'd not hit a bump. He's flying and fast. I can't get a shot. Crack, crack, crack. Gripping her sack of goodies against her belly, with a clickety-clack, clack, clack, O's wagon vanished out from under Reyth. As into the air Reyth went, so too did her breath. Weightless and free, like a dog down Turnus she paddled amid the current. Schneider's hand found hers, but then she slipped, from him, the wagon, Sangar, and into nothingness. Air sizzled around her, not with roaring heat, but with the buzzing spookiness that shivered her arm hairs. At the curve of her hip, Quet's gifts of moss rock, her hatchet and her arrows, resonated like the innards of the cavern before the screams of the tormented overpowered the melodic moss. The wagon left her behind. Schneider called to O. "Turn back! Turn back! The bastard got the girl!" Reyth fumbled for the gifts spilling from the overstuffed bag's mouth, and from where they fell into snow, she heard she'd not just been floating, but flying through the wind. O's harsh voice fading further and further away. "She's dead as a doorknob, don't be a hero." Then weightless freedom went as into a tree she crashed. Branches tore bare skin and snagged at hair, and she hit the ground faster and harder than had she simply just leapt from the moving wagon. Reyth bounced high and far, and into outstretched arms embracing her upon arrival. The body mashed against her face, fragrant with smoke and perfume that overpowered the stench of burning flesh. "Look what I caught," a man said. His earlier unintelligible speech still soaked his words, as he strained to speak the Turnus tongue. Another fish. A young one, too. The shape of a hand manifested upon her cheek, taut in leather. Then another voice answered from behind him, again in firm foreignness. When the man before her chuckled, cold and dangerous, she felt once more plunged into the hostile darkness. The scalds upon her mind bright and blaring once more. "Hear that, little one? My friend here thinks you're brave. I say we're all cowards at the end, so we shall see." If only she could sense them and make count of her attackers. But her topsy-turvy stomach and the whirl of flight made her vomit instead. It was brief, but she felt the startled foreigner release her. Reyth bounded backwards on the energy that pumped throughout her, but one bounding step was all she had. She'd snagged as if upon a fisher's net garroted around her. I'll slit your throat and kill you dead." Reyth's voice rattled, as ferocious as Evren's own croaks. "Ah, you do have a voice, like a little bird. Sing-song bird, and maybe you can live it out in an enclosure with the rest of the sows." Nothing at all held her back, but yet she couldn't move. Reyth surmised this to be the same trickery that had taken her to the sky. With great effort she managed a single, straining step. He was holding her. How? How? No questions. The stranger went on, "I'm looking for a woman who looks young but is as old as death. A silver-haired endless, long ears and fangs. I hear tell in these parts she's quite powerful indeed." No questions, she reassured herself. But did he mean Scylla? "Scylla?" Reyth croaked. "If that's her name, then ring-a-ding-ding-ding, little bird. Tell me where she is, and..." If she had enough strength to step, she had enough strength to fight. Twisting her body, she slung the sack of musical treasures off her shoulder and threw wide behind her. Upon rhythmic impact, the line enmeshing Reyth gave as she pushed through into a wall of light. All around her, flames of blue and red curled like claws over an ashen soil, where trees had split and burned from the insides up, where the twisted skulls of maligned animals, long-nosed and with flat teeth, cooked and burst by intense heat. Corpses upon corpses strewn in puddles of boiling blood and glittering grass. Beyond, in the direction she'd been fleeing, there were just the dead. While from whence she came, a figure loomed large above her. Beyond the trembling hand-shielding eyes that swelled with vision stood a single man carved of dark mahogany, with golden hair lit by the blaze, who shielded her within an imperceptible bubble against the licking tongues of infernal fiends. Such a bedazzling and disorienting spectacle adjoined with sudden sight could only mean she'd been killed, burned, and Auric notwithstanding, forgotten. A frail legacy was the worry of the living, she figured, and the fire did abate though it smoldered on the fronds of flowers and as embers upon grass exposed under melted snow. Only a warm glow had reached her. Ash caked her savior's thick linen robes and well-worn boots. Whoever he was, she knew him a hero, for he guarded her against the devil manifesting in parting smoke. From the 12 evil eyes she felt relieved to have escaped, but a pair of 2 more like emeralds were the first to bid her welcome back to the meadows of the sighted. This emerald gaze sat affixed within a young man's handsome face, stretched tight and ghoulish with gray-white skin pale and pocked as EU's own, dusted with the cinders of all the people he'd burned. The same cinders he flicked from smoking fingertips and brushed from short black hair. Delivered upon rainbow wings, a refractive eidolon of a white owl phantasm circled above. 2 men stood beside him, their own green eyes less brilliant as unlike their foremost friend of fire and flame, no great light shined and faded between them. They wore beetle-black helmets, artificial muzzles around their necks like scarves, and wielded long spears dripping with blood. Behind them smoldered Quatan, hills of the foreigner's goods, barrels of fruit and bolts of cloth, ablaze. Everybody, everything, gone. It was do or die with hatchet in hand. Reyth rose to crouch behind the one who had saved her, all the wonder of the new world lost as she focused upon the enemy through the needlepoint of the hunter's gaze, ready to fight. Even if she had grown weak and unfamiliar with any visions except the illusions she could conjure for herself to stave of the tedium of the long and lonely nights. "I appreciate the opportunity you made for me to intervene," said the Guardian, "but I'll take it from here." "A cruxer amid skeeves? Interesting," the green-eyed devil said, snapping his fingers. "Shoot 'em both, then seek out the rest." The beetle-helmed warriors raised their spears against their shoulders, each racking a lever up, forward, back, and down. Reyth prepared herself. Gregor motioned with an open palm, scarred by silver brands. She waited. Then he commanded, "Disarm." Reyth, like the men in black uniforms, obeyed. The helmed men tossed irons into the mud, and the devil discarded a smaller weapon concealed in his long coat. Reyth went so far as to slide her hatchet's leather thong from her arm. Gawking, dry eyes singed by ash and awe, she couldn't bring herself to reach for the weapon. Her muscles disobeyed. This was not like before, when the green-eyed devil held her within the web. Then she could resist. Now, that desire her body could not provide. The other strangers must have been so compelled, for as they went about stripping themselves of metal knives, shovels, flared sticks, and other concealed weapons, they allowed her savior to simply approach, discard their weapons into a dried-up runoff of Turnus, and return to her without struggle. Tasting air, they found they could still speak, move, and converse with worry. Much quicker than she, they'd began to adapt, and a dog's smile grew across the pale leer of the green-eyed devil, even as everything he had to defend himself with simply vanished. Then he barked an order, and the phantasm above lanced like lightning towards her. Reyth recoiled to defend. The owlish fiend broke upon them just like the flame, its idle components, sheared of rainbow color and false life showered over them. The green-eyed devil clicked his tongue in dismay and asked, "Who are you? You're no wielder. Are you an artisan? Sir itinerant, come to save the sweet savages?" But her guardian did not answer. Instead he procured her hatchet for her and helped her up. Reyth got a good look at his face for the first time. Sallow golden eyes, pudgy with bags, sunk into the bearded face of a man old as her father. Golden hair, dusty and straggly, coalesced backwards in a topknot as rigid as the strong sinews of his neck and arms. At the ready, a red-flowered bolt of white cloth. A weapon for a great warrior? She wondered, but these others had such harrowing tools, even her axe seemed a child's toy. "Are you Greg?" Reyth asked. "The holy one me uncle calls Ishi? I am Gregor, and I am no more holier than thou. Are you Tip-Top?" he asked. "We must withdraw. The others who've escaped will be tempted to settle in, but more of them are coming." The clink of glass turned her fresh gaze back to the enemy. From his pocket, the green-eyed devil produced Quet's gift of moss rocks, now silent, lifted from her without notice. "Ta-da!" he chimed and bowed with flourish. The sleight of hand alarmed her, and the slighting jest enraged her. Reyth lurched. With a swift step, her guardian brought the white bundle against her neck like a bar, and restrained her. "We must withdraw, child," he said. "I will defend you, but not kill for you. I've neutralized their arms, but a magister like him is never without a weapon." "How cute," the green-eyed devil said, the last of the green light that had shined upon his forehead fading. "What do you want with Scylla?" Reyth struggled, but the gold-haired man's strength surpassed her own. His technique alone halted her fight, as well as his earlier power had overcome her will. "Blood for blood," the green-eyed devil answered. "They've come for the mithrite, the moss rock," Gregor said, dragging her further away. "Auric says your speaker has been cooperating in their search." Auric says? Auric had not said that to her. Clearsight fogged red with rage. Her blood boiled over, her belly tightened, and her focus grew cold. Auric lied, to protect Scylla. And now Scylla wandered free to frolic with these fools while Reyth had been lost and alone in a world without light? She'd not wanted to admit it, but if Scylla walked with the Dark Ones, then why had Evren been a sacrifice? If not to give Sangar her dues and protect Turnus, then why? Was this all a cruel game upon her? Reyth exhaled, feigning to relax just enough so the one who restrained her would give, and she slipped free. Gregor swung to recover Reyth, but withheld as she dashed away to flee to the west. Not allowing himself to put his back to their foes, he couldn't keep her pace. Just as before, she hit a wall, although now she fell rather than illuminated, as she plunged into the abyss alight with only yellow. Blindness, stiffness. Then again sight flared. Reeling from flashes between worlds, Gregor caught her in his own run.
Behind them, their pursuers hesitated, considering their weapons, but never retrieving them. Gregor made his escape with the half-blind Rutland girl, Contact with Gestalt had bleached the yellow sheen of her myric eyes grey, and she shed tears of blood like wax droplets over freckled, flash-burned cheeks. He called to the Savant soldiers, taunting them, to wound their measurable pride and to send a message they'd surely relay. For these crimes against humanity, you've rendered here today agents of the Sevnantis. We will soon see whose blood is given for whose, who is brave and who is not. Return to your handlers, fairy fascist, and beg they retreat. For in the name of Eras, you will all fail in your conquest and lose yourselves in its pursuit. Preserver be her name.